I'm Kodrin from CutQuote, and I'm going to turn these complex DXF files into a professional quote and send it to a customer, all in a few minutes.
Speaking of complex files, let me show you the structure of the DXF files that I plan on using just to make and get a full understanding on what I mean by complex. So this is a typical DXF file that a customer in the profile cutting industry might receive. Processing a file such as this for an experienced estimator can take anywhere between 2 to 10 minutes. Finally, we have an example here of a file that's again typically used in the industry where multiple cutting patterns visible within a single file. So now that we've seen that, let's proceed to CutQuote's calculator. From the interface, we are faced with a very clean accepting uploads of DXF drawings and step files. But in this example, I will focus on how we would generate costing from this file. So let's start by dragging and dropping these files that we've already looked at. You can see that instantly the processing has taken place. We have a tab for each broken down into some parameters here that you can clearly see, and the detection of the units, whether it's an imperial or a metric file, it's automated and automatically transformed in the background in metric anyway. So we have uniformity across the entire spectrum. And then we can also identify the scale factor that is currently identified, and you can interact with if it doesn't happen to be a one-to-one drawing, and that will automatically scale the drawing. Now going down, we can also identify multiple layers which were pre-existing or added by the importing facility. Suffice to say that here on the bottom, we can zoom in and out and select the pattern that we are after. You can see here that multiple componentry were identified, but we visually can identify the one that we are after. So in this case, I'm simply going to click on the one that I want. You can see it's selected on the second line here, and we can enter the quantity and push enter on the keyboard. And now we automatically move on to the next one. Similarly on this one, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to enter quantity, push enter. On the third one, we're going to do similarly, and we're going to select the pattern and push enter. Notice that here we have center lines. This will be ignored by the calculation as clearly identified as center lines. Okay. Pushing enter moves to the next one. Now this is the one that has multiple cutting patterns. So for this, on a Mac, we have to hold Command, and on a Windows computer, we have to hold the Control key and just click and select the ones that we're interested in and enter the relevant quantity. So just enter, tab, enter, and enter. Finally, push enter again to move on to the next. And because we reached the end of the files, we're just going to select to nest all those 6 files. These are the parameter windows that allow us to interact with the criteria. So in this case, we're going to have 5mm gaps in between the parts and around the sheet. We instruct the system to use any angle for rotation, but you can also limit that. And mirroring minimum offcut dimension, which basically tells the system whether to charge the full plate or not to the customer, depending on the size of the offcut, and the type of trim for the offcut. So just continue. Our nesting API will start processing instantly. So you can see we are tracking an efficiency here, and we're getting some feedback instantly from the API. The algorithm is extremely efficient, on par with very expensive packages around the world. As you can see, the results are extremely good. We have a breakdown in terms of each sheet and as overall, and simply clicking accept creates instantly the costing associated with all of the components. And now on the right hand side here, they're clearly displayed with thumbnails and everything else that belongs to the costing, including the target profits that you used and margins for materials and your break-even cost situation linked to your profile cutting machines and so forth. Now, moving forward from here, we will also demonstrate a complex 3D file in the form of a step file, which once I dragged in here, you can see it's instantly processed, broken down. One thing that I should have mentioned, we had here 0.8 thickness to begin with, but the addition of the step file has identified the correct thickness and automatically updated the selection for the material thickness. And then moving forward, we can have a view in the 3D format of the actual file. You can see the level of complexity here and the number of folds. So now that we established that we have the right criteria, we already have a highly accurate representation of the developed unfolded pattern. All we need to do is just enter our quantity. You can enter various notes against it if that applies to you. And then same as we did before, we're going to perform a nesting session so we can calculate the required material. It goes through the same process as witnessed with the original DXF files. Highly efficient nest. Completed. It will give you a summary, same as we had originally. And here it is. And clicking accept has completed the cost. We can see the last component here is the one that we just finished. But notice that now this one already has 14 folds and 13 rotations calculated into a cost at a total of $22. So you can see here the breakdown and the criteria, which actually used your own machinery parameters for the press brake that you have set up against the operation in the background. Now, looking at the quote itself, it's currently not linked to a customer. So let's do that by clicking on the Save Quote. And we are getting an option to search for a customer or the last customers that I worked with. So let's just pick one of those. Now that I've selected that, let's assume that this is a good customer that you want to give a discount to. So you can type a discount in here, and they require deliveries or whatever delivery cost you may have, you can type in here. You can see the breakdown already. And if you want to preview the PDF file so you can see what it looks like, here's the example. There's a whole bunch of customization that can be done to this based on your own company colors and logos, obviously, and so forth. But suffice to say that it's highly professional with a very clean look. So now that we are satisfied with that, we will send this by clicking on the Send Quote button. This is a default text that you can interact with and modify as it applies. Let's say that we don't want to use the full name, and click Send. This will literally use your own email server's settings to send the quote, and the quote is now sent. As you can see in the second tab here, I have the account where I can check what the customer is seeing. So the customer has received the quote, the PDF file is attached. Again, looking extremely professional. And they have the capacity to literally view the details in a dedicated page online. Select all of them or individual lines as applicable and enter an order number required by date, accept it if they are on an account, or accept and pay with a integration that transfers the payment to you within 24 hours. And that will trigger the workflow inside CutQuote for the production of orders and so forth. But for the sake of this video, I hope that you found it informational and understand the tremendous speed and accuracy that comes with it and the benefits in terms of facility of processing this complex CAD data. Thank you for watching, and follow us at cutquote.app.